happy Thursday. I think it's Thursday. I am joined today with a buddy of mine, Ryan Osten. He is an excellent automotive entrepreneur. And Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience, who you are, where you live, and where do you work?
Sure. Thanks, John. This is a pleasure to be on the show, pod, whatever we are here, stream. So my name's Ryan Osten. I am CEO and founder at Lyteflo. We are an EV platform, an EV playbook for dealerships to thrive with EVs, sell them faster, sell them for more gross. We have sales and merchandising tools and battery health reports. We got them covered from A to Z on EVs. Prior to Lyteflo, I was COO at Goobagoo, which was a messaging and digital retailing company. We grew that to 6,000 dealerships and sold it to Reynolds and Reynolds. And then I worked at Reynolds and Reynolds for 3 years and then started Lyteflo. So, and I'm in Toronto, Canada, not yet the 51st state.
We're coming for you, Ryan. We're coming for you.
Maybe we have to bring the low taxes.
We got to start in Alberta, work our way slightly east, but we'll get you. But yeah, I'll tell you, Ryan, we work with a lot of Canadian entrepreneurs. There's something about Canada that's very endearing. We work with Ben at Talk Soon, Maz at Mercedes-Benz at downtown Calgary. Have you ever seen them?
Nope.
So Mercedes-Benz at downtown Calgary is my favorite media property in our industry because they turned off all paid advertising and they decided to go all in on building a YouTube channel, which is the highest aspiration in new media. Is like, we're going to have a good YouTube channel. And they bought a private airport adjacent to their dealership, and they bring in luxury and exotic vehicles and they drag race them, and they built their own version of Top Gear. And they actually bring in like other dealers or high net worth individuals. We just flew up Russ Flips Whips to be on an episode of their show. And Ryan, they're at 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. And now like we sell some advertising for them, but the inbound demand for their dealership is insane. You got to check them out.
Wow. How long did it take them to build the 300,000 subscribers?
2 years, but they're high intent. Like Maz is an extreme creative. You know, his like you got to look up his Valentine's Day skit that he put on Instagram. He got the angry calls from Mercedes and all of that. He's from LA. In another life, he'd be a producer of a film or like a director of a film, but he's like stuck being a general manager of a dealership. We just love those guys. And I'm all for as much Canadian interaction as I can get.
Good. Well, I'm glad you clearly haven't met all of us, but there is a good entrepreneurial spirit up here in Canada. What I'd say is that we have a couple things: lack of access to capital. There's just like way less capital up here, even though we do have a pretty good, venture industry in Toronto and Vancouver and a few in Montreal. But also, I think we suffer from a kind of go for bronze mentality. The Americans have a very adventurous, reach for the sky, reach for the stars, go bold or go home. And I think Canadians are kind of like, oh, I'll build this thing to a certain size and then I'll sell it to an American company and, I'll get the silver medal instead of, IPOing or, trying to build a generational business. And there's a number of great entrepreneurs who are trying to, change that mentality, but we need to build that muscle.
I mean, I can kind of relate to that a little bit. Like I started Freddy Media at the beach in Jacksonville thinking it was a mechanism to let me surf every day. And the more successful or bigger, maybe it's bigger, maybe it's more successful, but I'm getting terrible at surfing ever since I started my own company.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. You shouldn't be too good at golf if you start your own company, if you're golfing too much. I mean, entrepreneurship, it takes up almost all of your free time that's not dedicated to if you have family or whatever, which can be unhealthy at times. So you need to figure out ways to balance your life. As we were talking about health stuff before, but making sure that you're you have a good routine, because a lot of people can't just blast through it and be like, I'm just like not going to sleep and I'm going to be stressed all the time and all that stuff. there might be some Elons out there who that's fine for, but for the most of
But
us,
even Elon kind of like walks with a strange gait. He kind of like he blinks with like triple eyelids now. Like I look at Elon and I go, I don't think that's for me.
yeah, for sure. I mean, there's those things, but he was clearly able to be effective doing it. I'm merely talking about like business outcome is like you can't even, a lot of people won't even be able to be effective if they're working all the time and stuff. He was able to do it and be successful, but yes, he's got some weird shit going on now. He's probably not super healthy. And, you know, you see interviews with him where he's like, he looks like shit and whatever. But like for me, I wouldn't even be able to be effective on this call if I was up till 2 a.m, kind of every night working and not having any kind of, I mean,
You
for
know
me,
what?
it's like, yeah, go
I
ahead.
reserve the nighttime stuff. I reserve for the stay up all night stuff for the creative stuff. So like
Mm.
I love going, put the kids to bed, hang out with my wife. Then I say, hey, I'm gonna go write a newsletter. And I go and like pisses my wife off. I go out to the couch and I stay there and I'm like sourcing articles from all over the place. And at like 2 a.m. I'm done. But if I'm gonna stay up late, I generally don't want to be like coming up with a new accounting process. I want to be writing a newsletter, doing something that's kind of like fun. That's what I'll wake up early to take a beating, and I'll stay up late to do something creative.
I like that idea. Yeah. I'm usually pretty spent at the end of the day. So like at 9 o'clock, I'm unable to really do work, or I know that I shouldn't push further because I will impact my sleep. And then my next day it'll snowball, I'll like not feel good the next day and so on. But what you're saying makes total sense, to do something that's more fun than work, more play than work. And that definitely can work. But
So Ryan, you were the COO of Gubagoo. That's a 10,000 pound gorilla sold to Reynolds and Reynolds. How did you get into Gubagoo? Did you come in as the COO? Were you like part of the founding team? How'd you get best job ever?
great question. And there's a good story there. So, well, I think is a good story. So, my father was a tech entrepreneur his whole life. He had to take care of his family for various reasons. His father passed away when he was young and stuff. So he had a, classic, like I had a paper route, and then he would like DJ parties to make money and stuff when he was, a teenager. And he was an accountant, and he ended up going into the shoe business when a shoe store was going out of business, doing a liquidation. He bought, and my grandfather had, not on his side, but my mother's side, had been in the shoe business. So they were like, he was like, oh, we should buy this store that's going out of business. We'll buy the inventory for 50 cents on the dollar. And that's how they got into the shoe business. And he was an entrepreneur, right?
The Al Bundy of Toronto.
I love it. I love it. So he built that up, and I'm going way back because I think it's an interesting story. And this was kind of like as I was growing, this was even before I was born, and for the most part. And at that time, he had purchased some POS software to like run inventory and stuff. This is the 70s. Like software was not a thing. It was not easy to, it wasn't like, oh my God, software is going to eat the world and software is going to be incredible. It was like nobody wanted any part of this software stuff. And so anyway, that company was going under, and he invested in that software company. I know it's a question about Gubagoo, and we're going back to the 70s. And so he turned that software company into a 20-year behemoth, took it public, and was CEO of that company.
Don't you love that? Don't you love that the shoe guy, through implementation and usage, was like, no, I see it. Get out of the way. I see it.
Yep. And I mean, to me, the lessons of this whole story is a couple things. Steve Jobs said you can only connect the dots looking backwards because you don't know what's going to lead to what, essentially. And this is truly a case of that. Like you can only look back and say, oh, that led to that, and that led to that, and so on. And you have to be open to opportunities. So he was late in the game at the software company. He was at a shoe shine in the Houston airport, and he met a guy named Brad Title sitting beside him at the shoe shine. And this was like 1998. Okay, I was 15. And my dad, so they connected, Brad was in the automotive business. He had a CRM. He was in his 20s. He had a CRM, one of the first cloud-based CRM in automotive. It was called Cowboy Corp. The product was called Prospector. And so they exchanged cards and so on. And Brad reached out to my dad to be like, hey, I would like for you to be involved in this automotive CRM. And the year was like 1999. My father they sold the software business that he had built, my dad, right? The public company. And my dad ended up investing in Brad's CRM business and becoming CEO of the CRM business.
Your dad's a bit of a touched individual. We need to kind of follow his footsteps as much as possible.
I think you need to have him on this show because everyone thinks he is the best dude. And I'm just trying to live up to his, the path that he's charted. So everyone loves him. He's incredible. He's had an incredible career. So they're doing this Cowboy Corp thing, right? Automotive CRM. They end up selling that company to Cobalt, ADP, right? Cobalt. Cobalt ends up becoming CDK, right?
Yeah.
And so Brad works at Cobalt for a bit, and then he goes to a BDC company. The next 10 years, not working together with my dad and so on. And in 2011, Brad decides he wants to start a company, 2010, 2011, whatever. And he's like, we're going to do like lead conversion on dealer websites. They're going to play games on the site and you're going to win a prize and they're going to get convert a lead and whatever it is. Right. Anyway, he calls my dad and he's like, hey, I'm doing this thing called Goobagoo. Do you want to be involved? And so we write at that time, I'm like past law school. I finished law school and I'm at the beginning of my career working in a tech company. And so we get involved in Goobagoo at that point. That's how, right at the beginning, right? We invest in the company. And then as the company starts and we're helping, it's ragtag. So like we're helping on the side and this and that. And then as the company starts getting some legs, like 100 dealers, that kind of thing, me and my dad go full-time into the business. And I start.
Do you look back on that as like, what a special moment? Like me and my dad helping to build a nascent tech company that's like finding product market fit in real time?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the whole journey was incredible for various reasons. I mean, one, the opportunity to work with my dad for 10 years through that was awesome and also difficult, particularly in the later stages as when I started at Goobagoo, I was very green, I started as a salesperson actually, just like cold calling dealers because I had no idea about the dealer business. I knew nothing. Right. So, and then quickly moved up to COO as I was, showing success. But it was hard working with my dad toward the end, harder, I'll say, just because if we have disagreements and we're both
your father outranked you. You had to defer.
Yeah, that's right. But that can be hard, right? And then you're bleeding this relationship of work and your personal family relationship. And so if you have those differences, you got to figure out how to work them out. So, but I do look back at it as a special. I mean, firstly, the whole Goobagoo thing was lightning in a bottle and a very important thing that I did in my life. And it crafted and shaped who I am today big time. And to do it with my dad was incredible because we got to spend so much time together. And it was basically
you were riding hip pocket with two executives that kind of knew what they were doing. And so was Goobagoo built very foundationally. Like he knew how to build a sales team, how to build an operations team. Or like when I started Freddy Media, it was like sell, 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 sell. Was this a little bit more of a mature standpoint of like, no, we're funded. We're going to build something that stands and is strong?
I wish it was like, here's the plan. We've done it before and everything's going to go perfect, but it was not like that. There are certain things that you bring in, of course, with experience, all the experience that you've had. but every business is unique. And so you kind of need to make mistakes each time. It's hard. There's certain mistakes it's hard to avoid. Although over time you do develop these rules, philosophies that you can point to when you're hiring and what you're looking for, and using pattern matching to know, oh, I've seen that thing before. That's a bad way to do it. But we made tons of mistakes in whether it was
Have to.
comp plans, for the sales team, how we split up regions. Everything worked, but you just gotta, like, I call it struggling well. You need to struggle well. You need to, like, do something. You need to try something, course correct if it's not working, and keep moving forward.
What was the moment at Gubagoo where you were like, we've got it? Like, we just closed a large enterprise account. We need to triple down on what we have. Did you sell like a 50 store group and you're like, all right, Dad, we're going all in?
Yeah. So I can remember one. I mean, there's a few, but one that stands out is when we got Group One. So we signed Group One, which at the time was maybe 150 stores. And Brad calls me up, and he's like, Brad's the CEO, obviously. And he was like,
now it's Daryl, right?
well, they're now.
Yeah, now I think Daryl Kenningham.
I don't even know. I don't know that name, but there is no CEO anymore. Oh, is it a joke? No, yeah.
No,
yeah.
We interviewed him on Car Dealership Guy early days. So I remember booking him and thinking like, oh, we got
a group. Are you talking about Group One?
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Gubagoo. At Group One, we were dealing with the head of marketing, Gary Gaia, basically. So, but Brad called me, my partner, who was the CEO of Gubagoo, right? And he's like, we just signed up Group One. We got to implement 150 stores in 2 days, right?
So, that's what I would say to my team.
Yeah. And so I remember that as being a seminal moment in the trajectory of the company. And there were others. We won Ford Direct as an exclusive white label provider. Asbury was a big win for us when we worked on digital retailing with Asbury and launched their whole stores with Merrick and David Halt and all those guys. So those were a few of the moments that stood out. But you're always nervous about it falling apart, because you could lose one customer and now your valuation is all fucked, and you're set back 2-3 years because you thought you were worth 100 or whatever. I'm just making up round numbers. And now a big customer leaves, like a 100 store group cancels, and now you're worth 50. And now you're like,
right.
How are we going to get out of this thing for a number that we like or whatever, right? So
what a thrill, though. And that fear of losing it all, or the fear, I mean, entrepreneurial fear is a real thing. I know at Freddy Media, I bootstrapped this, I never put $1 into it. I think I looked back at like how much money I injected into Freddy Media. It was the HubSpot account. That's all we ever did. It's like the $350. I always tell people like, I was talking to a fraternity brother today that wanted to start a business. I was like, Mercury Bank, go high level, and a Gmail. That's what you need. And I think that sets you back $100 a month. But I mean, when you are carrying overhead, I mean, we ran payroll, like my monthly payroll is probably like 180 grand a month. And if you told me 12 months ago that's going to be your monthly payroll, I would have been like, well, that's a bad sign. But now there's like direction, and it truly is one of those things where you're like, you need the accounts, you need to serve the accounts, you need to keep going, and you don't want to collapse in on yourself. But at the same time, you have conviction in your thoughts, and you want to build, and you want to keep going forward and grow bigger and bigger, but thoughtfully on more high leverage and better revenue lines.
Tell me about the Freddy Media genesis, the origin story. I know the other part about you were in the automotive industry as a GSM. You burned that all down after you had a health issue. We can go into that, but I'm also curious of like, how did the Freddy thing come?
So I was working at Full Path, and we received a lot of leads.
Auto Lead Star.
I was at Auto Lead Star. We received a lot of leads because Car Dealership Guy mentioned us on Twitter. And I basically couldn't stop thinking about that. It was like, it was as if the faucet turned on and inbound poured in and it all came to me. And so I made like commission check of a lifetime, you know? And I felt like I was kind of the only guy that like couldn't look away from it. And so I sent an unsolicited business plan to an anonymous car dealership guy and said, we can do this, this, and this, and I'll do it. I don't need healthcare. I don't need anything. Just give me a revenue share and I'll do it. And, it took a few more weeks of convincing that person to do it. Turns out it was Yossi Levy, and the two of us built it, built the CRM, built the advertising products. And the first 3 phone calls I made were like money, money, money. Third phone call was a lot of money, enough money where I looked at my wife and I was like, I'm going to quit my job at Full Path. So I did the first 3 phone calls while I was still a Full Path employee. I don't know if that's going to get me sued by someone, but then once I caught that,
we're
I
talking,
cut out.
we're full transparency on this pod, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
then,
when you can I just click in on that? So these were accounts that you were pitching. Hey, you have a social media presence. I can help you monetize that. Let's go. That's what you
I
were
was
pitching.
saying, come on the show, sponsor the newsletter, sponsor the podcast. You can pay for a sponsored tweet. And then people
for
were,
car dealership guy.
yep,
Got
people
it.
were
Sorry.
buying it. People were buying it every time I called. It was like the easiest sell of all time. So then I was able to build Car Dealership Guy for like 12 months. And month 9, I signed Russ Flips Whips to Car Dealership Guy. And we did a marketing engagement for a tech company with Russ. And Russ put like great effort into it. And he sold like 20 of those products. And I called the CEO and I said, hey man, like that's a lot. 20 is a lot. And he said, yeah, man, if I go to NADA and I sell 4, I'm like thrilled. And so what I did is I bought that contract for Russ from Car Dealership Guy, and I started Freddy Media. So all I had was Russ Flips Whips. And then I was getting a lot of money for Car Dealership Guy, and I kind of needed to replace that high dollar figure. So I looked at Russ and I was like, I think
you just left Car Dealership Guy and all the rev share, everything.
I walked away from it. So I started I started Freddy Media. Like literally, there's a text to Savannah like, "Hey, should I call it Freddy Media?" And then all I had was Russ Flips Whips, and I could get maybe $10,000 for a social media post from Russ, and I had good economics on it, so it was nice when it happened. But then I started signing other people, George Saliba, Benz and Bow Ties. I'm kind of a master at sending a DM to somebody to get them to respond. Even now, like huge media properties that know, like goodness, who's like the top female business, Cody Sanchez. Like I DM'd her last weekend and she like hops on a call with me. So I'm good at getting the attention of big people. And then Chris Kerner signed to Freddy Media, but he was very nascent. He wasn't as big as he was at the time. So I had like 3 influencers. I was selling a lot of media. And then, we just went from there. And then eventually a brand asked me to like start doing more marketing for them than just influencer marketing. So I hired a marketing director and we built out like a proper marketing business under it. And then from there, every SaaS company in automotive was like, hey, we want you to sell this for us. Cause I was loud on LinkedIn. I had a team, or I was just, everybody kind of noticed me. And it was hard for me to like directly sell something for a car dealership because keeping the influencers happy it's a full-time job. You're up till midnight on the phone with them like, oh no, you're so smart and I love you. So I didn't have the time to actually sell it. And when I started Russ's training company, we went and trained the Van Horn Auto Group in Wisconsin. And then when Adam Gedke left as the COO, he called me and asked me to help build his media presence. So I was helping him with LinkedIn or clipping or whatever he really needed just through the marketing department we built. And then Adam, Savannah, and I said, well, why doesn't Adam just sell things to car dealers for us? So then Adam started selling the first product we have, then the second, then the third, and the fourth. And Adam has built like a proper dealership sales channel through us. So now we have like a dealership sales business, a marketing department, and then the media department is still kind of like core to what we do. So I bootstrapped the whole thing. Our monthly revenue is as big as any company I ever worked for. Like suddenly we have this thing that's like a real viable company. But looking back, all I wanted to do was cut brand deals, build businesses for influencers, And even still last night, like a really cool influencer reached out to us and said like, "Hey, did you build that company for so? Did you do that? Did you do that?" Yep. Okay, well, I'm launching this new media property and I want you to be like our revenue arm for it. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm in for that. So it's a little bit of whatever crosses my plate. But yeah, I'm like thrilled with what I have, to tell you the truth.
That's great, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
incredible. One thing leads to another. I think. I mean, would you what superpower or what primary like attribute would you distill the success down to?
I think that what I'm really good at is looking at something and seeing the value in it and then being able to organize some product around that and then pitch it to the market. So like Russ Flips Whips, when I met him, his like biggest goal was to be the top Lincoln salesman in America. And I said, and we were watching Clemson play football, and Russ didn't care about it. And we ordered a pizza, and I watched him like teach a pizza delivery guy how to do TikTok for like 20 minutes. I'm trying to watch the game. Russ won't shut up behind me. And then the pizza delivery guy takes Russ's advice, cuts content, gets 2 million views, and then Dave Portnoy comes and reviews his pizza restaurant. So I'm
Mm.
like, Russ, we could teach dealers how to do that. And he was like very apprehensive. And then I called a dealership and I got $15,000 for us to go and do it. And I'm like, hey, dude, bad news. Like, I already got a yes. So we're doing it. And then, like, we went there, and the first one we ever did was Worman Toyota. And like, their TikTok has like 80,000 followers. You know, dealer plate guy, like Austin Conroy. He, we download,
I know of it. Yeah, of him.
we downloaded that account at the first store we trained. We like named it Dealer Plate Guy. We were like joking that we were going to get sued by Car Dealership Guy, you know? And then, so like everywhere we went with Russ, it just kept working. So I just can like look at something and realize what they're capable of and then put a bow on it and then pitch it to people. And then I think I'm good at cold outreach, where a lot of people are, they don't know what to say. Um, I'm good on my feet. I know how
What's
to
the
kind of like
what's
make
the
it happen.
what's the tip on cold outreach?
Well, I had a fraternity brother reach out to me this morning because he wanted to start his own business. And I said, you know, what do you do? He said, packaging engineer. I help transport the wind turbine blades across the country. And I set up that. And I'm like, you should just be consulting to startups in your industry that maybe aren't doing that, but doing something much less. And you need to reach out to the founder or the CEO and you need to say to them, hey, look, I can do this for you. My acumen is perfect for what you're doing. And in the beginning, as you get your first few customers, instead of saying I'm going to be 5 grand a month, 10 grand a month, give them an only upside proposition. Like, I will solely charge 10% on the savings that I drive forward for you. Like, make it so easy, or work for free for your first 3 clients and then refine your offering and then build a business off the back of that. And I know not everybody has the luxury to do it, but our first few clients at Freddy Media were effectively like nominal or free retainers. And you just have to have like conviction that you can mature and grow into something from there. Because I don't think I was ever a great product guy. Like, you're a product guy. Like, you start product first. That's kind of how you go into something?
Yeah, I definitely, my primary goal is to build something that people love as a product, and I come from the product world where I want to build a highly leverageable um, property that can be sold multiple times, let's say, right? So I want as much
Of
scale as
course.
possible. I want to build a product that can be then sold 100,000 times and used by as many people as possible. Less in the media business. I don't have, even though I've made a lot of content. I've never
Yeah.
really productized that content or anything like that. There's naturally, I think, a brand that has developed, but I don't think about it that much.
So let's click into Lyteflo. Every dealer is struggling to sell EVs because the communication or the ability to, portray the value prop to the customer is ambiguous or complicated, or they just don't know where to begin. And how did you go about solving it? Like, how did you identify an innate problem? And then, like, what was step one to creating an MVP?
So we identified it by my experience in the industry. So I'd been obviously in the industry for over a decade, and I had seen what good merchandising looked like of products. And when it came to EVs, I could see that these things were essentially being marketed like gas vehicles. And what I mean by that is you'd look at the vehicle detail pages, you'd look at the website, and they would be lacking things like range, for example. Like the number one most important thing that a customer wants to know about an EV is what is the range, and we're not giving it to them when they're shopping on the website. And so that kind of clicked the opportunity for me that there's something here where these products are fundamentally different, the EV, than the products that have been sold over the last 100 years, the gas vehicle. And if there's that problem, then there must be problems across marketing, sales, appraisal, retention, everything, F&I, where the old rails are broken for the gas rails, essentially, with EVs. And so how we went about starting was we built some prototypes and we put them in front of dealers. And we said, like, hey, we've got, these tools that would plug into your website, and we've got this battery health idea. Is this a problem for your team? Or do they find it hard to answer questions about EVs? What questions do they find hard to answer? And so we had a few early dealers that we worked with like that. And from there, I mean, they agreed for the most part, and we signed LOIs. So we get the interest right out front, like at the beginning, not just talking, but like, okay, will you sign like an LOI that, if we build this thing non-binding, that you would use it? And then so that gives us the validation that that we need in order to start building. And then we raised some money, hired the team, and started building those tools. So
That's interesting. So who do you go to raise money initially? Is it like friends and family, or do you go to family office, or do you pitch VC? What do you do?
there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'd say that the most common way is to start friends and family when you're doing what's called a pre-seed. It would be like pre-seed stage. If you're like the first kind of money in, you'd go friends and family, you try and build something, get a few customers on, a few paying customers. Then you raise seed from VCs that do seed. So there's VCs who do seed. There's VCs who do later stages, like, so basically go pre-seed, seed, series A, B, C, D, and so on.
Did you understand this? Like, because you were the COO of Gubagoo, you were like, I know how the world works? Or, me, I'd be like, I guess I'd call my uncle. I don't know.
Yeah. So I understood some of it, but not as well as I do now, because Gubagoo was bootstrapped. So we actually didn't raise VC. And so I didn't have the experience of raising money and how the fundraising process works. So that's typical. So you've got, you start with your uncle, right? Like you said, friends and family, maybe some high net worth individuals that you might have in your network, that kind of thing. And then you try and get a customer, 2 customers, 5 customers. And then once you show a little traction, you go out to raise seed. Now with me, it was a bit different in Lyteflo, because we started the company with a venture studio. And so the venture studio has a fund. Essentially how that works, they have a fund, right? Call it, I'm just pulling random numbers, is not them, but $50, $100 million fund, right? Whatever, 5, might be 10, I don't know. And they put pre-seed funds into the business. So they actually fund the business from the start and act as your kind of co-founder. So that's a different path than your traditional like VC path in a sense. Now we went out and still raised from other VCs and so on, but we didn't have that like, oh, let's go raise from friends and family to start kind of thing. So,
and then from there you have a product, and your product's super interesting. Like, it has a lot to do with VDP conversion, and also like it ties into the remaining health of the battery. And then you actually like mail it out to the dealers, and they plug it into the EV, and then it does a little bit of a test, and it's like a used car conditioning and appraisal tool as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we call our whole suite EV Playbook. So if you want to like sign up for everything, it's like run the playbook essentially. And we've got our sales and merchandising tools, which make your website not suck for EVs. That's what we say. Like your VDPs suck for EVs. And if you add Lyteflo, they no longer suck for EVs. They're awesome for EVs. And that has the effect of increasing conversion on your website for EV shoppers. So we have that sales piece. And then for the used EV business, the number one, which is having a big moment right now, there's 1.1 million leases coming off, EVs coming off lease that we've sold over the last few years. Affordability is great on these cars. But the number one concern of a buyer of a used EV is the battery health. And so we have built a tool to generate a battery health certificate within a minute to 2 minutes by plugging this proprietary piece of hardware into an OBD port on an electric vehicle. And within a minute, it's generating a battery health report. That battery health report can be used at appraisal. It can be used when merchandising the vehicle. It posts to your website. You can use it in marketing, lead follow-up. And we're seeing customers now are asking, like shoppers, are asking, hey, cool, I'm down with this car, this used Tesla, this used Lyric, whatever it is, but I need to see a battery health report before I buy. And so,
Interesting. So you kind of like built the market. You kind of Carfaxified EVs.
yeah, we need people. That's exactly right. And so there's like an angle here of like, it's good for us when shoppers are asking for battery reports. And so, it's like, okay, how do we educate the market that they should be asking for battery reports? Because the moment someone comes in and asks a dealer for a battery report and they don't have it, that's the moment the dealer is saying, how do I get battery reports, guys? Right. So
You and I know each other a little bit just kind of through LinkedIn, or you and I have done a Google Meet here and there. But then we were both at NADA, and I saw there was like a pitch contest at like some automotive entrepreneur thing. And Ryan went on stage, and you were one of 4 people pitching, or 5 people. And then I was kind of like the soccer mom. I meandered into there late. I was like, there's all these impressive dealers there. There's venture capital. There's M&A attorneys. And then Ryan goes up on stage, and you won the whole contest. What was that? You were the best pitch, best product. What was that? What was I watching there?
So I think you were watching someone who was experienced in how to tell a story when they present. It was the ATI event. I actually have the award right here, which was quite a nice award.
That's a fancy trophy. Shout out
It's
April.
really nice. Yeah, shout out to April Rain on the ATI, sorry, Automotive Tech Investments. So, well, I think what would be helpful for the audience actually here to talk about is how many people don't understand how to present and how to improve your presentations. So firstly, you got to know your audience. But if you're going up in front of like on a stage, you need to entertain and be informative. And so I learned from reading books and watching YouTubes and stuff like that. There was a book that changed my life in terms of how to present. And the book was called The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. And I recommend that anybody who is interested in leveling up their ability to present in a large group of people, read that book. And what it does is it breaks down Steve Jobs's most memorable presentations, slide by slide, sentence by sentence, and explains the philosophy and principles that he's using to influence the audience. And I'll give you a few, right? And these are common mistakes. No bullet points, right? Big slides of text, absolutely not. If you're doing that, stop doing that. A slide should have like one idea, and that's it. Maybe you've got one line of text, maybe you've just got a picture, but you can't use it as a script, right? So that's the biggest mistake. There's like literally no bullet points. You're not allowed to have bullet points. So that's one thing. Rule of 3 is another thing. It's a phone, it's a music player, it's an internet device, the iPhone. 1, 2, 3. People remember things in threes. So no bullet points, rule of 3s, use analogies. It's a thousand songs in your pocket, right? So all of these tell stories, have stories you can tell. So I think that's a helpful thing, because I think a lot of people don't study enough how to do a great presentation. I'm not saying everyone's, there's many amazing presenters out there for sure, but there's also people who you'll see is like, hey, this slide's like really busy, but what you need to take away from it is, well,
Right.
why
Yeah.
did
They're
you make the
trying to
slide
like,
like that?
they're like regretting what they're showing you in real time. They're like, oh, yeah.
Exactly, right? So that's what you watched at ATI, and it was a great event, and we were grateful to win.
Yeah, and I mean, you're at this point where now you are a founder. You guys have found product market fit. You're a pretty ascendant company, and dealers are adopting your product. Are you also selling laterally into the market? Because I love selling to dealers as much as I love selling laterally into like other tech companies and stuff like that. Have you found that that's been easy to like, or complementary to go out to website companies and stuff like that and say, hey, just integrate directly to Lyteflo? Because sometimes you can find a ton of scale if you just find alignment with another company that has a big user base.
For sure. I mean, that can be a real accelerant to distribution versus going kind of like dealer by dealer, if you can do those kind of enterprise deals. We've had some partnerships that we've done over the last year. I'd say our primary, it is very like those kind of deals that end up working out are, I'd say, rare in my experience. We had one at Goobagoo that worked out, and that was in the UK. And so right now it's a dealer to dealer business, but we'll see where that goes.
What's the team look like? How many salespeople do you have? And are they like booked all day, every day? And like, how does your go to market look like right now?
Sure. So we're small right now. We've got, our sales team is a few people. Our go to market is, hey, it still works. Cold calling. Cold calling works. Dealers pick up the phone.
Somebody the other day said to me, oh, we've never adopted a product that's been cold called to us. I said, that's not true. I've sold more things cold calling than anyone you've ever met. And I'm sure I could cold call you as well. But how do you open someone up on a cold call that, they didn't expect your call? You're reaching out to them. What are you saying to them to turn them onto your product or open them up to even be open to chat?
Great question, because many people suck at this too. So now you're asking for secrets. These are secrets. So when you are cold calling, don't say your name. Don't say where you're calling from. And some people can get away with this stuff. Don't say, are you busy? You need to get right to the point with what we call a permission-based opener, right? So typically what we do is we say, hey, this is a cold call. You don't know me. Could you give me 32 seconds to tell you why I called? If you don't like it, I'll never call you again. Most people, when they hear that, are not saying no. They're saying, fine, give me your 32 seconds. Then you'll never call me again, right? Don't say, hey, I'm Ryan. How's it going? Hey, I'm Ryan calling with Lyteflo. Have you ever heard of us? No, I never heard of you, right? So that's bullshit, right? So you got to say, so that works really well. Like, hey, can I give you 32 seconds, tell you why I'm calling? If it's not interesting to you, I'll never call you again. Permission-based opener. And so once they do that, you have a super tight message that's personal to them. Hey, I'm looking at your website. I see this, this, and that. This is the problem that we solve. If that sounds good, are you open to 15-minute meeting? We could schedule for next week. I'd take you through it.
I love offering the 15-minute meeting as well. I think sometimes people like, if you can't communicate quickly, you're going to lose so much business. And you can also close quickly as well. Like, I mean, everybody thinks you need 45 minutes. You simply don't. The person on the other side of the line, they value their time so much. And I even think it's like a great way to establish a relationship if you are good with the other person's time.
Yeah, you want to be respectful of time. You want to be authentic. And the other thing about the cold calling is don't sell the product on that. You're trying to get the meeting. Understand what you're trying to do each time, right? So first you're trying to get them to say yes so you could do your pitch for 32 seconds. The point of the 32 seconds is to book the meeting. It's not to sell the product, right? So what can you say to book the meeting, right?
So what is the eventual full grand picture of Lyteflo? I know that you guys have a product. If it was only this product you currently have, it's a real company. It's a big company. but do you have this like grand scheme in mind?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're focused on building the #1 industry standard battery report. I mean, the sales and merchandising tools are great and they help dealers, but our vision is to be the standard in EV battery certificates. So don't buy and use EV without the Lyteflo certificate, kind of thing. And so we're gonna have our hands full building that. And once you have all that, once you've built that, you've got all that data on those batteries that are on the road, that can be extremely valuable as well in understanding how batteries degrade across different OEMs, across different chemistries, across over time. And so, yeah, that's the vision, is really to be kind of like the one-stop shop for EV solutions for dealers, but also the, #1, the industry standard for battery health reports.
And let's finish on this. So the EV market as a whole, how are car dealers handling it? What is the market potential? Toyota's hedging slightly. They're throwing like $2 billion at their plant in Texas, going all in on hybrid. And then if a few years ago when there was that giant incentive in place, everybody was selling EVs. Like George Saliba was the Cybertruck king. But like, what is the future of the EV market? Is it going to slowly move into being the lion's share of all vehicles sold in America?
I think, yeah, the future of the EV market is undeniable, that the world is moving toward electric, and there will be more EVs on the road tomorrow, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years than today. I think in America is different, very different from the rest of the world. The rest of the world is already there. They're
Really?
at 20, oh yeah, they're at 25% plus adoption. In Europe, China's at 50%, I think. I believe. Europe is over 25%, and it's America that is lagging. And it's not, I think it's because of a few missteps. One, it's become a political issue because of incentives and those sorts of things, which didn't help EVs. Two, I think that the OEMs came with some uncompelling products in America. You look at Tesla and the Model Y. The Model Y was the best-selling car in the world and one of the best-selling cars in America in 2023, 2024, or whatever. So because they had a compelling product, a compelling price. Now, there are certain obstacles to adoption right now. One is public charging. America, the topography of America is different from Europe. People are driving longer distances. There's certain areas where it's like, hey, if I'm driving, I drive 11 hours to see my in-laws. I can't be stopping 4 times for 45 minutes. It's going to take me it's going to take me 15 hours, or let's say it was a 7-hour drive. It's going to take me 11 hours to do a 7-hour drive. That's a problem for many people.
Do you think the dam breaks when the Chinese companies are allowed to enter the market?
So I think that, I don't know if it's the dam breaking, but I think when you have those Chinese vehicles that are at cheap, very compelling prices and very compelling products, you're going to have a boost in adoption for sure. And by the way, those vehicles are coming to Canada shortly this year, next year. Yep. And so they're lining up on the border. They're in Mexico. BYD's in Mexico. It's in Canada. And so I think affordability is also an issue with EVs. And that's why with used EVs, it's less of an issue. Used EVs are gaining a lot of demand because the affordability of used EVs is already affordable. They're already at parity with gas. I can get a Tesla Model 3 for the same price as a Camry in the used market. That's very compelling. But when I'm looking at the same equivalent EV being $10,000 more in the new market, that's a problem. And with any new technology, the economies of scale aren't yet there. So economies of scale aren't yet there for EVs where they can, produce them at the same price as a gas vehicle. So I think the two problems are affordability. So bringing those prices down, as well as charging infrastructure and charging technology. I need to be able to charge faster, a little bit faster. I need the infrastructure to get better. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. By the way, another thing that people don't talk about, autonomous vehicles.
I
You're
was
not
thinking
seeing,
that like
yeah,
autonomous is innately tied to EV, like the Waymo vehicles, the
yep,
Tesla vehicles. Elon was saying this week that this next 18 months is where autonomous vehicles become ubiquitous, where it's going to be like everywhere, not just when you visit Austin, Texas. And I think that will have a lot to do with EV adoption as well.
for sure. I mean, they're not building the most advanced AVs with gas engines, right? They're building them with electric motors. And so it's new technology. Now, not everything, there's an adoption curve, and it's going to take time, especially with cars. There's a lot to move with cars. So it's going to
Man,
take some.
well, Ryan, I couldn't be more proud of your journey as an entrepreneur, learning from your father, venturing into Gubagoo, and then founding your own business that has found product market fit. Lyteflo is on an ascendant trajectory. I'm very proud of you as a founder. Just another great Canadian guy that's making an impact in the American automotive business. And thank you so much for hopping on today and explaining to us your entire journey.
Thank you, John, for having me. This was it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure being on and chatting with you.
Awesome. Everybody go check out Lyteflo, and thanks for watching Freddy Live.